Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Doug Crowe, Beth Hill Poulin, and Dr. Wayne Buckhanan. The question I want to ask, what makes something disrespectful? Wayne, can you kick us off?
Sure. When you asked, the first thing that came to mind is that this idea of disrespect, I see a couple of patterns. One is that it is something that there's a power differential, like you aren't respecting my position, or there's an importance that I don't think it's important, therefore I'm not giving it the respect that it needs, or there is just a formality disconnect. But they're all, in my mind, just a matter of differences in expectation between two people.
Yeah, I was thinking about this question a little bit yesterday, and then right, you mentioned today, Robyn. I keep thinking of like context, like what example. And I know this. I have a friend who can tell the most awful joke, like the most offensive joke in the world, with a huge smile, and everybody tends to laugh about it. The same joke out of my mouth would be disrespectful. So I think a lot of times it comes with attitude or context is what can also create the disrespect.
I like the piece of the differential in expectations, and it happens through everything. It can be happening with regards to possessions, with people, with family members, just people on the street, following the rules. There's a differential there in expectation. My expectation is you are going to stop at the stop sign.
This came up for me because I heard a coach say to an athlete, "You're disrespecting the game." And I thought, what does that mean?
The game has no feelings. I'm curious about that part of it, about the recipient's role in the disrespect. Like, okay, so if I'm being disrespected, am I thin-skinned? Do I get triggered because of past trauma? How would the other person know? There's a lot of dynamics to this question of how it could play out depending on what the topic is, of course. So I think it might be both parties' responsibilities to navigate that.
And a level of communication to know that the disrespect has happened. Yeah. Again, there's that expectation. If you don't communicate that this is your expectation, and you don't communicate that you feel disrespected or that that was disrespectful, the other person might not know. It may take a coach to say, hey, you're disrespecting the game, to start the conversation and the communication about, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean I'm disrespecting the game? What does that mean?
I'm just wrestling with that idea of disrespecting the game and trying to, my automatic coaching approach is, what specific behaviors are you labeling in this way so that I can start to unpack, okay, but I interpret this in a completely different way than you do, or I just didn't have that on my radar. And is it just a matter of formality? That's that category that I had that covers a lot of this, like, oh, you're not taking this seriously, therefore I'm labeling it as disrespect.
So I'm thinking about golf, and this incident didn't happen in golf, but I'm thinking about golf and how golf has all of these rules that you have to follow. If you don't, it's considered disrespectful. So that goes back to your point, Beth, about there being rules and expectations and things that you're supposed to do. And if you don't do them, either because you choose not to or you don't know, you get labeled disrespectful. But I don't know. I
don't think it's that simple. I'm thinking of Colin Kaepernick now, right? First person to publicly take a knee, and all the outrage is disrespecting the country, the military, all these things. And I was on board with that until I dug deeper into the conversation and listened to some veterans talk about, no, I fought for his freedom to be able to do that. And so there's always two sides to these coins, I think. And I think I'm going to say that it lies equally with the recipient as well as the person who's doing it.
Yeah, because in any other context, bowing down to show respect is actually intentional, right? So how do we interpret that? That one falls into my category of a power differential. We're doing this and saying it's disrespectful because we have some perception of a power differential, and or we're trying to maintain that. Like, no, you need to defer to me in this way.
Yeah. When I was on the other side of the coin, when I was against it, a friend of mine of color told me the history of the national anthem at sporting events. And it was a complete marketing campaign by the DOD. A few years prior to that, they had never done it. but they need to recruit people. So they start the national anthem and the jet flyers, all that stuff, all paid for to boost recruitment. There's marketing. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not offended anymore. Just like that, he cleared. I switched camps just like that fast.
Interesting. Yeah. And respect is interesting because respect can be used two ways. It can be used to mean treat as an authority or treat as a human. And sometimes when people say, if you don't respect me, I won't respect you, what they mean is, if you don't treat me as an authority, I won't treat you as a human. And I feel like when people say that's disrespectful, it is an insult meant from a place of power.
I gotta think about the power thing. That's a good point for you and Wayne.
I have no problem with somebody saying, hey, that's rude, or hey, that's disrespectful, or hey, that hurts me, and having a conversation about it. But when it's said in a way to put someone down, and that's the end of the conversation, that's when I want to go, wait, what? What does it mean? You
could say, well, that's disrespectful too, because you just put me down. You could ping pong that back and forth. Okay, so I guess you enjoy being disrespectful because you're doing it to me. If someone says that's disrespectful, I usually automatically say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way, or tell me more, or something like that. I mean, that's a human thing to do.
That's where the communication and the conversation needs to continue, and it needs to continue as more than the ping pong. Oh yeah, oh yeah. It needs to be an authentic, real conversation where you actually get information, because that piece about the national anthem, I didn't know that either. Yeah. And it's very easy to sit in the stands and make a judgment call without all the pieces of information, without all the pertinent pieces. And so you can say that's disrespectful, but you don't know XYZ that could change that.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to define what disrespect is?
I think what Beth said about communication and people being they have their own lenses on all the time. They never look at anybody else's lenses. Always me, I'm right and you're wrong. Not like, tell me more. I wonder, why do you feel that way? Nobody asks questions anymore. They just go right to reaction.
One of the pieces that along that reaction line that came up for me as we're talking is realizing I've learned over the years not to directly address it externally when someone says that is disrespectful. I internally go, okay, you're interpreting what I did as disrespectful in some fashion. So I have to internalize that. So I've stopped arguing the definitions externally, but it's like, okay, I'm sorry that what I did came across in that way, if I am, and dealing with the fact that, there's that interpretation layer. Is it an absolute? This is rude? Well, change context. No, all of a sudden it's not. But yeah, a lot of that. Yeah. Why is defining disrespect so hard is because so many people go to absolutes.
Yes.
Instead of having this in this context was a problem because. A problem for me because, a problem for them because, even more context. So we can unpack that and realize, this isn't a universal absolute, but so many people are just going to present it that way.
Because there's so many different lenses. What's disrespectful? I think it's so hard to define because there's so many different lenses. There's so many different contexts. And you can't say what's disrespectful for this culture may not be disrespectful for another culture. But it's all in the perspective. My mother says it's my favorite word. It's all in the lens that you look at it.
And I don't think you can demand respect by telling someone they're being disrespectful. I don't think that works.
Yeah, so. I agree with that. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Culture is a big thing. You're right, Beth, on that. I was thinking of some international travels, some things I've said or was told to, and like, well, that was kind of, you got to when in Rome. So yeah, it was interesting.
Well, and even just thinking about the thing that happens in the boardroom is not the same thing that happens at the cocktail party. There's a different level of expectations with the exact same people you may be interacting with.
Yeah. Well, this has been a really difficult conversation that I did not anticipate. So thank you for having it with me. That is our 10 minutes. And I look forward to talking to each of you again very soon.
Thank you.